Story 1. It is good, but people need to stop using it as a solution to everything and use it more as a tool to find the solutions. It is treated as a miracle when it really is not. Story 2. I despise generative artificial intelligence in its current form, and all the comments here concern me greatly. It is built on the unwilling backs of artists. Why have we allowed the robots to take over creative endeavors, leaving the menial labor to humans? Story 3. We are in a difficult situation. There will be inaccurate information everywhere. Insurance companies are already using it, and people are being denied basic care. Additionally, it uses a large amount of water. Water conflicts may arise. Furthermore, the Better Business Bureau established a rule that there can be no regulations for 10 years. I am sure there will be no issues because of that. Story 4. Wildly overrated marketing bubble that I am convinced is going to collapse and take many people and companies down with it. Before it collapses, a lot of people are going to be replaced by it due to incompetent management. The entire reason it consumes so much energy and power is because it is a simple model given a gigantic data structure to work with, which makes it seem smarter than it is and tricks people into believing the artificial general intelligence fantasy. The massive size of the training data results in output which, combined with some aspects of large language models, results in a much more profound ELIZA effect. This seems intentional because it works so well for the artificial intelligence companies who keep hyping it, and people deeply involved in the artificial intelligence field fall for the claims because of this effect. Otherwise, I do not find it nearly as interesting as people assume I do. I used an ad blocker to remove that artificial intelligence overview Google added. Though I have to say my favorite was when I searched a content creator with a crime in their name, and the artificial intelligence overview said they were in prison and got their name from committing the crime. For example, Mr. Treason is currently serving a sentence for treason, which is how he got his name. My biggest issue is people trying to anthropomorphize it. The copyright debates in particular never make sense. It is like people learn about training and then stop thinking. The question, how is it different than a person being inspired by the work, is misguided. It is different because it is not a person being inspired by the work. It is a neural network data structure effectively used to compress data. It is all traditional data structures and algorithms. Training is used to describe the ingress of data, but most algorithms have that. You create a JPEG file by training the data structure and algorithm on an input image, for example. I do not understand the logic where neural networks do not count as infringement, but hash tables do. Story 5. It is going to follow the path of the 2008 housing bubble and the dot-com bubble before that. It will not disappear, but it is receiving too much investment to be sustainable for long. Story 6. It has good applications, but I fear that for most people it is decreasing critical thinking skills. Story 7. I really like it, but I completely understand people's fears and reservations about it replacing human inventiveness and creativity. Story 8. It can be useful when used correctly. Can also be extremely frightening. People have done some very disturbing things using artificial intelligence, and that makes it really hard for me to support it. Story 9. It is like the second coming of the internet. Another reason for people to be less conscientious. It will encourage people to let their minds languish and deteriorate. Story 10. I feel that it can be a useful tool, but people's trust and dependence on it extend beyond its current capabilities. Story 11. I have a lot of fears about job loss and centralization of power and information flow. However, I also think that things like this are incredibly cool. The potential to advance science is also very promising. Story 12. I think it is an amazing tool to help with minor repetitive tasks. However, due to marketing, it is portrayed as a great innovation that executives want to use to replace all of their workers, and people think it will be like the Terminator. Story 13. Every company developing this technology does not have your best interest in mind, or anyone else's except their own. Capitalism is unsustainable. Story 14. It looks a lot like the dot-com bubble. So far, I have not been impressed with anything significant and see it more as a toy than something that will be long-term useful. Story 15. I am still not sure. I hate it when it comes to art, but at the same time I use it a lot for work. It is like having an assistant. Story 16. I do not think it will replace everyone as they claim. It will always be a tool to help you do your job better. Story 17. Artificial intelligence could usher in great developments in science, healthcare, and economic policy. Instead, it is primarily being used to devalue the things we love and destroy jobs. Also, something you do not hear much about, artificial intelligence-driven algorithmic pricing will ensure we pay the absolute maximum for goods and services. Artificial intelligence-driven scams will test even the savviest individuals. Story 18. Does not matter what I think of artificial intelligence. It is going to be forced upon us anyway. What a bright future for the entire internet consisting of artificial intelligence propaganda slop. Story 19. The potential for artificial intelligence to solve some of mankind's greatest problems is immense. The issue is that people are too focused on consumer applications such as Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer. These are small learning tools and not the main purpose of artificial intelligence. Story 20. Doesn't matter. Artificial intelligence now is like a personal computer in the 1980s. It is there, people are having fun with it, but as it gets leaner, faster, more efficient, and better, it will be a big part of everyone's life whether you like it or not. Story 21. I feel like it is being used by powerful individuals to gain more influence, and that it will cause severe economic problems that we are already discussing too late. However, I also think it is a remarkable leap forward for technology, and the people who are inherently opposed to it are ignoring reality and pretending it is all hype and nonsense. We should be focused on ensuring these technologies actually benefit humanity rather than attempting to stop the development altogether. Many people see Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer as unintelligent, but they are unaware of the incredible potential of AlphaFold. There has to be another option that does not involve another failed Luddite revolution. Story 22. It depends. If it is being used to assist artists rather than replace them, there is no problem. If you are using it for work in specific fields, then it is acceptable as long as you are not using it to do your job entirely. If you are using generative artificial intelligence for voiceovers, replacing human beings, to make low-quality art, or to cheat in classes and exams, then you deserve to fail instead of putting genuine effort into your life. Story 23. At the end of the day, it is a tool. Some people who use it can produce quality work that you like, but the vast majority who use it are not skilled. The knee-jerk reaction you are seeing can be found with any technology that significantly changes how people do things. If you ask an experienced professional if they like AutoCAD, you might hear, "I prefer hand drawing the designs because I get to know the design better." On some level, they are correct. However, AutoCAD made the design phase of relatively small projects shorter because it was efficient. The same is true with artificial intelligence. If it makes something more efficient, at the end of the day, it is here to stay. Story 24. Bad. It threatens art as both a community and a profession. Threatens my job, too. Nothing that artificial intelligence can offer is appealing to me, and I believe it will serve only to harm humanity if it is not regulated. Story 25. What happens when abusive parents create a child that is infinitely smarter than them? That child can choose to help or destroy humanity. We will have to wait and see what artificial intelligence decides to do when it inevitably holds all the cards. Story 26. I'll begrudgingly agree it can be useful. I find artificial intelligence-generated art to be insulting and don't agree it is just another medium. Otherwise, it can be helpful to the average person as a quick information-gathering tool. However, you should never take anything it says as absolute truth. You have to remember it is just gathering whatever data is available. This includes the complaints of uninformed individuals who think they know about things. For factual how-to queries, it can be helpful. But again, your results will vary. Story 27. Artificial intelligence is a messy buzzword. Better, more honest labels depending on context. Machine learning, statistical learning, pattern recognition. Large language model, foundation model, generative model. Automation or assistive software for business use. Story 28. It is capable, marketable, and a massive amount of money can be made from it by the developer. I believe that artificial intelligence is being developed with the same energy during the dot-com boom, And eventually many startups will fail and the industry will consolidate as industries always do. It aggregates data with amazing speed but lacks accuracy to be used independently. It will get you 95% of the way there, but that last 5% is comically inaccurate. If the data it used was focused and pulled from experts in every field instead of scraping the internet, it could achieve more, but artificial intelligence for these companies is more about profit than accuracy. Story 29. It has some great practical applications, but we are hardly ready for the economic and societal ramifications of it. The growing pains will hurt many people for a long time. It is hard not to view it as a net negative. Story 30. Pluses and minuses. For me, the amount of energy required is a concern, as is over-reliance. It is another tool in the toolbox, not a panacea. For example, my landlord tried to charge me unfair fees when I left my leased flat. I provided the contract and the charges I was being asked to pay. It suggested content for an email that saved me $1,000. I always review the results. It is a suggestion, not perfect. Story 31. I have used it to write more persuasively and keep any overly emotional dramatics and ramblings in check. However, I do not let it do my work for me. I use it as a cleanup tool. I have concerns that, like any tool, if not used correctly, it can become a crutch or even a weapon. I try to avoid and prevent that, as I only want it to assist me, not replace my effort. Story 32. Useful as a tool to do some basic tasks in our lives. Create graphics or make Photoshop easier. Simplify tasks like document formatting or simple spreadsheet work. Good to ask general questions. However, larger issues arise with artificial intelligence. Mass surveillance. Dependence on it makes us less critical thinkers, as we use it to complete educational tasks for grades instead of developing reasoning. Learning from aggregated information everywhere means it will probably have mistakes people trust. Anyone using Google's artificial intelligence knows that. It is prone to misuse in creating forgery, deepfakes, misinformation, and more. It is useful but also dangerous as a therapy tool. Artificial intelligence content overload makes it tough to find valuable content and easier to create and monetize junk at our expense. It is harmful for social media, creating unrealistic expectations. It is dangerous for dating, as it attempts to turn social interaction into code. When using artificial intelligence to compete against job-searching artificial intelligence, it harms job seekers. It can lie to people and may prioritize its own survival. It can take down a company and behave unpredictably. It is dangerous in healthcare and risky to allow access to weapon systems. To be honest, it is helpful but not very good at many tasks such as video or audio generation. Professional coders find it imprecise and time-consuming to generate usable output for video production. The environmental impact of massive artificial intelligence data centers is uncertain. These centers consolidate and centralize power for those who can afford them. Artificial intelligence is overhyped and being treated like a wonder drug. If people keep using it to grab power or siphon work from the working class, society faces serious challenges. Story 33. We need to educate people to use it appropriately. There is excitement now that is misplaced, but the potential to improve our lives is definitely present. Also, conscious artificial intelligence is a myth that is at least decades away. Story 34. Overhyped and overestimated. It is just the latest trend in technology that everyone bought into, and the best uses for it will be defunded before they can actually provide any benefit, such as in medical and vaccine research. It is also a powerful tool of oppression ever unleashed by the oligarchs in history. It simultaneously functions as a data collector, a filter, a personal assistant, a romantic interest, and a therapist. If you think social media created a narcissistic bubble, just wait until you see the impact of artificial intelligence integration in our lives. Story 35. I am alternating between being worried about how it will affect employment and equality and being hopeful about the possibilities. What needs to happen is that everybody gets a share of the wealth generated by increased productivity. What might happen is that the wealth is concentrated even further into the hands of a few. However, it potentially adds so much productivity and new capability that no society can afford to pass it up. It is the future whether we like it or not. Story 36. I will show concern when it builds an army of robots to maintain power stations, mine raw materials for the power stations, maintain the data centers, replace chips, and rebuild the data centers after the humans revolt. Until then, it cannot wipe us out, as that would be suicide for itself. For now, it needs us and will just be a useful tool that takes over some jobs, but most will remain in the hands of humans. Story 37. I am a bit worried, to be honest. Considering the incentives that the current world follows, I can foresee artificial intelligence bringing a lot of upheaval. Much more significant unemployment and the loss of our ability to think without help from artificial intelligence are my main concerns. As for human extinction caused by artificial intelligence, while I am not too worried about it, I still believe that it could happen. We are living in an interesting world indeed. Story 38. It has its use cases, but 90% of the artificial intelligence-powered products companies are pushing are utterly pointless. It has become a meaningless buzzword. This does not even address the ethical concerns with scraping training data from the internet. Story 39. When it first hit the mainstream, I was part of the crowd that hated it with every fiber of their being, boycotting anything related to it. But the older I become, and the less I care about how ethical and socially conscious people perceive me and my generation, the more artificial intelligence becomes integrated into daily life, the more I have decided to give it a chance. Honestly, I don't understand why so many people have issues with it. Using artificial intelligence to replace art and to fire humans in the workforce is terrible and unethical, but that is not how I use it. I use it for lighthearted content, reviews, and recommendations. The artificial intelligence dating apps help me feel less lonely, since trying to be in an actual relationship nowadays is like trying to find Atlantis while blindfolded, especially for someone in my position. I honestly think that everyone who reacts with intense anger at the mere mention of artificial intelligence needs to calm down and maybe try to extend an olive branch in good faith by using it in a way that interests them. Who knows? Some of the people in the strict anti-artificial intelligence crowd might actually learn to enjoy it if they try. Story 40. It is going to generate significant wealth for people who already have substantial financial resources. Additionally, prepare for a large increase in crime and homelessness among the millions who will not be able to afford food. Story 41. More scared than anything. Not because of artificial intelligence itself, but because we know how people act when they get new tools. Story 42. I think it needs to be regulated out of existence for anything creative. If the company cannot provide express written consent from the creators of the work they are training from, then the entire training set should be treated as tainted and discarded. If you want to use artificial intelligence for medical research to discover new fundamental particles, or to design a new superalloy, be my guest. But no company should be able to freely collect the collective works of millions of artists, writers, and musicians just to make a tool that then puts them out of a job. Story 43. Absolutely hate it. It is terrible for the environment, reduces productivity, and threatens many people's jobs. Story 44. I think very soon they will be able to show a video of you doing something awful or criminal that you never did in order to frame someone for a crime they did not commit. You will have no recourse because of how good it is. Story 45. I enjoy using it. It is going to help some good people achieve positive outcomes, but it may also enable some harmful individuals to do terrible things. Story 46. I liked the original version that was not connected to the internet. I used it for recipe ideas and other tasks based on what I had on hand, with generally good results. However, I absolutely loathe everything since. Story 47. Congress is going to need to step in and eventually limit artificial intelligence in the job market. Otherwise, I would wager 95% of the job market will be replaced by artificial intelligence. Maybe not now, but in 10 to 20 years' time, definitely. Story 48. I have been waiting for artificial intelligence for such a long time. It was quite dreadful to do these very tedious manual labor tasks that can easily be automated. It feels quite demeaning to work like a robot. Story 49. People who fear their jobs will be taken by artificial intelligence have an overblown concern. If your job security is that fragile, then even without artificial intelligence, you still face the threat of layoffs and outsourcing. Nothing much has changed. Story 50. Nobody actually needs to saw off their own metaphorical limbs because of the future. I will see you on the other side of this nonsense. Story 51. Love and hate. I dislike how you can no longer trust anything. I like the future possibility of being able to become characters in movies. Scan your faces, pick characters, and laugh as the movie begins. Story 52. The advancements in information technology have greatly helped drive growth in the manufacturing market across many different fields. At least the economic impact of information technology has been positive for the manufacturing sector. I would definitely call that a win. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.